Call this meeting order. All stand face the flag. The pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. R.J. Devlin.
Here.
Britton Luther.
Present.
Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of claims.
Motion to approve claims.
Second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of payroll.
Make a motion to approve payroll.
Second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Treasurer's report. If someone cannot hear us, please raise your hand and go like this. We're not, it's fine, but we don't know if you hear us. Please let us know.
Lorinda Pruitt, Vermillion County Treasurer. We'll start with the interest that was earned in 2022, the total interest, and that was $678,299.96 all combined. January interest report had a total of $129,031.99. The rate now, at that time it was 4.4 in the month of January. Now it is 4.65.
How much of that is on, I know there's different accounts, but
We separate it, American Rescue Plan, we keep it separate. For 2022, it was $47,777.40. In January of this year, it earned $11,382.36. The main checking account in 2022 earned $608,920.23. In January of this year, it earned $110,741.06. That's the good news. The bad news is we're all paying for it. Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
you got public comment. Someone who has something to say, please come up and to the mic and identify yourself and give you 3 to 5 minutes. If not, we're moving on to new issues. For Vermillion County Economic Development Corporation and RISE Agreement, Doug Hess.
Good morning. Doug Hess, Economic Development. And I know we discussed, or had discussed last, I think it was last meeting, regarding the agreement between Vermillion County Economic Development and the RISE Agreement, and there were some questions and concerns regarding this agreement. The Commission has asked their attorney, Eric Oliver, to come and address any questions that you may have from a legal standpoint. I don't know if Eric, you would like to say anything or just be available for questions, but we're just like to know where we stand, I guess, with this and how we can move forward.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Eric. I represent the Vermillion County Economic Development Commission. It's our position that the RISE agreement, what I'm calling an interagency agreement between RISE and Vermillion County, is actually a good thing for the county, and it meets the statutory powers of Vermillion County Economic Development Commission. Specifically, 36.7.12.3 of the Indiana Code identifies that VEDC may develop a program that serves public purpose and benefits the health and general welfare of the Vermilion County through creating programs of gainful employment and creating business opportunities. I think this interagency agreement is specifically what that's going to do. It's going to allow a taxpayer savings for Vermilion County by using and combining resources, and also allow those resources then to be joined together to create better economic opportunities for Vermilion County. And so under the statute, the Economic Development Commission has limited powers. It's not a general, for example, like a county commissioner, which would have a general powers throughout Vermilion County. It is very limited powers dealing with economic development, and in my opinion, the Economic Development Commission and RISE are specifically dealing with those. So I think an interagency agreement where they agree to somewhat of a loosely termed a job share agreement where they share some resources in order to not require both entities to have complete separate employment is a beneficial use of government resources as well as within the statutory powers.
How would you describe the commission and its powers and its limitations and what it does?
Well, I would say that the Economic Development Commission has to evaluate everything based on, does it meet the purpose of the ordinance that was created, which created, Vermilion County Council created the commission, and so does it seem to promote the opportunities for economic development and gainful employment issues. If it does not meet those, then I think it should be evaluated with a very, a strict interpretation then to see if there are other powers, either the powers under the code or the additional powers that are granted to the Economic Development Commission. It is not solely, though, based on the idea that the Economic Development Commission can only acquire a certain property and then lease that out. It talks about that as the main focus of the Economic Development Commission, but it says under the statute the policy is the idea of within the unit of government, so Vermilion County, this is the Vermilion County Economic Development Commission, is it seeking to improve employment or obviously pollution control is another factor, but we're not dealing with that in this situation, but economic development.
The issue is that you need to read the whole part of that statute, 36.712.3, of which it says the financing a single identified economic development or pollution control facilities and the provision of a program to finance multiple unidentified economic development or pollution control facilities that promote the substantial likelihood. And it goes on to define those restrictions as to what the financing. But this group is a financing group, not an economic development that can enter into these type of agreements with the RISE or whatever. Now the commissioners can, but the Economic Development Commission cannot. We've asked our county attorney to look into it as well, and it's still his opinion that that is the case. They're a finance group. They're not a future economic outlook. They're reactionary, basically, or asked to finance different things. There are some things that goes further with, eminent domain. There's some
Correct.
issues with that, but that has to do more with water control, pollution control, and being able to put those facilities into place and to be able to cause those to happen. But outside that, they're not an administrative role, and that's what you're asking for is an administrative role for an agreement to go with the RISE and to cause economic development for the future. That's not within their powers.
I think if you're looking just at that one portion of the statute, you would limit it. But if you also look at 18.5 and 18 being the limitations of powers and 18.5 the additional powers, but it does not solely say it's just for the sole function of financing.
Well, the title of it is Declaration of Public Purpose, and everything is predecessed on that purpose, and it flows down from there. It doesn't flow up from there.
John, so is it your opinion that they're just a financing thing like Britton just stated?
I think their power is only to make loans when we talked about some things they've done in the past. But I do think the commissioners would need to sign off on this.
Okay. I think we're kind of getting a little bit off topic, just a smidge from this agreement here. I think this agreement's good for the county. It's saving taxpayers a lot of money. I think the old director out at the RISE was somewhere around $100,000, and we're utilizing resources. I mean, I for one don't object to this agreement. I would like to see it approved today. I think that's what Doug had brought, himself and their attorney here today. So I would like to see the commissioners approve this by, unanimous agreement or by a vote to move forward with this.
I'm not really clear on some of the stuff. That's part of my issue, to be truthful. And it's like that I think that the RISE already sent money over to us to put into account, and that we haven't did anything to let that happen.
Well, I think I may be mistaken, but is Doug currently working with the RISE right now and helping them? And I think the RISE is just kind of waiting on us, would be my understanding, is they've approved this. And I think they're just kind of wanting to make sure the EDC gets paid for their time, for what they're doing. So what's some of your concerns, Tim? I mean, Doug's here, maybe he can answer them, or Eric, or...
My concern is that it's not within their authority to do this. And economic development, we might have to draft an ordinance. Part of the problem, we have this problem with the building commissioner and the APCs, because a lot of this is done verbally, and everybody gets to interpret how that looks. What this needs to be developed into, and I'm proposing that we develop an ordinance for our next meeting to actually define the economic development department and what their role is. When the council went away, because it was, we don't necessarily need to get into the history of it, but the problem was that it was advisory, and it became basically an administrative function. The council doesn't do anything but fiscal type project or fiscal responsibilities, and the council is the one that can develop the Economic Development Commission. As such, it's not administrative. It still gets back to the finances of things and the role of a fiscal responsibility. It has nothing to do with the administration of economic development and its future. That's defined by the commissioners and by the council by budget. This role here clouds that issue. And if the Economic Development Commission or Economic Development Department becomes actually a department underneath the commissioners, then it can do these type things, but not underneath the commission by itself. You have 3 individuals that are appointed from 3 different areas, of which do not define the economic development of the county. So I think it's clear in statute. I think it's clear in purpose. I think it's clear in the way in which it was formed and by the body that it was formed by. I don't believe that we can.
I just think that we're just getting hung up on little things here when we're trying to move the county forward. I think this is a good agreement. The RISE has already sent a check over there. They're wanting to move forward with the Economic Development Director. The EDC, in my opinion, has done strides of great things over the last 2 years, and it seems like the commissioners now, or maybe the majority of the commissioners, want to hold that up for clarification on an ordinance, which I just don't quite understand.
Well, I don't necessarily agree that they've made strides here. I went over a number of things with Doug, about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours last week, and I don't see those issues that go along with economic development being addressed. There are things that they've done good, and some of the things, I think a lot of things that they've done, I don't know if they're good, but they're supposed to be administrating a loan program or letting bonds, and they're doing that, as far as I know. Right, wrong, or indifferent. But this is outside their realm, and I believe that we can do something with this. I think it has to be underneath a different role and underneath a different portion of the county government.
I just respectfully disagree with that. I think this could be approved today. I think some of this is just jumping through more hoops that we don't need to do. And I think economic development has done a fantastic job. I served on that board prior when there was a 12, 14-member board, and there has been strides made from those years to the years we are in now.
I got a question for you, Doug. This money that is $42,000, how is that appropriated, and how is it set up, and how is it budgeted, and what's going to be spent for? I think we need clarification on money that goes out and there's no...
So of the $42,000, looks like $15,000 would be allocated towards my compensation for doing the
When
work
you
out
say
the
your
RISE.
compensation, you're saying for your wage?
Correct, that is correct.
Directly as far as payroll wage?
That is correct. $2,000 would be for the administrative assistant in our office for some of the work that she'll be taking some responsibility for.
She will get a raise from this directly?
$2,000, correct. We have $10,000. If you remember the original proposal that went before the county council, there was a vehicle in there, so $10,000 would go towards the payment of that vehicle. And then...
Back up on the vehicle.
Yes.
The vehicle is going to be leased, bought, or purchased?
Well, originally it was going to be leased. After we talked to the car dealership, they basically said it would be in the county's best interest to purchase it outright because it would save about $16,000 versus a lease. Again, that's up to debate whether you want to lease it or buy it. Is something that could be discussed, but originally it was to be leased. And then after speaking with the dealership, we thought maybe just buying it outright because it would save $16,000 for the county. So again, trying to look at saving money in that process. And then the balance would go towards the first year. Year one would go towards the vehicle. In future years, the balance of the left from the $42,000 could be used for raises. It could be used for different projects. It becomes an open-ended question at that point.
Yeah.
Are you not full-time already?
What do you mean?
Well, you're doing however you're doing economic development, right, wrong, or different, you're working a full-time position for economic development, I assume for developing projects or enticing companies to come in and so forth. How's your role change that increases the salaries or for either you and or the assistant?
Right, great question. And when I was hired in originally, I was to do economic development for the county except for basically 7,000 acres, which is the RISE. Okay. Yes, there were times I would go out when Bob Drury was there. He would ask me to sit in for a couple different reasons. One, to ask for a second pair of ears to listen to maybe what was being discussed, make sure that he was hearing what was being said. The second option or reason I would be asked to go out there is in case something would fall through at the RISE, we had a backup and said, hey, just don't pull out of Vermilion County. There's additional land here that we may be able to talk about in terms of that. But I was there more as an advisory role, not any official capacity. Now I'm being asked to take an additional 7,000 acres, if you will, the RISE, on and lead the economic development portion of that. So that's...
But there's still only 40 hours in a week, or 50 hours, however many hours you're going to work, but you're already using those hours. What is going to get lost then for you working at the RISE?
I would say what's good for the county is good for the RISE, and what's good for the RISE is good for the county at the end of the day.
Well, and I think and we're looking at this as well, you know, the RISE was paying $100,000. They're going to be paying $42,000 now, so we're at $58,000 savings for the county. And not only that, this money, once after year one, we're looking at what, $18,000, $20,000 a year that the EDC now can put towards projects and help the county. And to be hung up on this, it baffles me to be hung up on this about moving Vermilion County forward. I just cannot fathom this discussion today.
Whatever your salary is now, why is it not just compensating the county for your current salary? I don't know what your salary is, 60,000, 64,000, somewhere in there. Why is it not just compensating the county for the 12,000 or whatever a year, instead of the county having to pay the full 60? I'll just say it's 60,000.
Yeah.
Why is it not just subsidizing the 60,000 as opposed to being on top of the 60,000?
Well, I think, Britton, if I could interject before Doug responds, back when they were looking for a director, I believe the EDC went to the county council, and maybe Rick could even remember this, I think. They were even asking for $100,000 or $120,000 to hire a director. And, you know, I think we got a steal hiring Doug in at $50,000, $55,000, and I think, I'm not even sure if this, you know, extra $15,000 is enough for the work he does. So to say that he should stay at his 60-something thousand and not incur this extra $15,000, I think is just ludicrous to kind of say that. I
think it's all right to go if we find success here, that we're bringing in, that person earns the position, earns the pay. That's one thing, but I can't say we've gotten to that point yet. We're developing it. Maybe some great things will happen in the next year or months, for that matter, that are directly associated with this, but that hasn't happened yet. And to compensate for something that hasn't happened or to say that great things will happen, we don't have those yet. Let's allow that to happen, but let's allow it to happen organically in conjunction with what the economic development of the county goes. But we haven't seen that yet. And you haven't answered the question yet of the difference between just compensating your regular salary versus the increase in salary, if
May I
you will.
respond to that? Before. The issue, as Doug said, was when he was hired to do economic development for the commission, accepting the RISE area. So now they've increased it by 7,000 acres of economic development. And so this $15,000 raise would set to deal with his additional responsibilities. He's not paid, he is a salaried employee in terms of his work. If he takes in longer than 40 hours to get his work done, he still does his work. And so this additional job responsibility is where the basis for the additional allocation of 15,000 is. The other thing I would point to is the nice thing about this agreement, while it's ongoing, is that either party can terminate this agreement if it's not working out. So if the Economic Development Commission says, look, Doug's not able to do enough for the other area of the county and we can't go on with this agreement, it can be completed after 1 year. We just have to provide the notice that is on there. So while it creates a situation where there's potentially continued funding for this situation, if it doesn't work out, neither RISE or the Economic Development Commission is bound to continue on with this agreement. They could see after 12 months that it's not been good, or maybe after 3 years it's still good, or maybe at that point in time it requires additional funds or additional opportunities, or maybe RISE sees where at that point in time they need to have their own director. But for right now, what this does is it allows for savings for the county. It allows for economic development to continue, which is what the purpose of the Economic Development Commission, and you and I can disagree with whether this is limited to just a funding issue or there are other situations. But the point I will take issue with you on is the Economic Development Department, under the ordinance, is administered by the Economic Development Commission, and that's where I believe we have a difference of opinion on where the commission's powers are.
They have a department, but that department is restricted to finance, so they are supposed to administer the loans, the bonds, the legality of all this, and be able to collect those monies and be able to perpetuate the Economic Development Commission. They're supposed to be eventually get to the point that they're paying for themselves through these loans and so forth. We're not even close to that yet. And that's the reason why I believe that a sharing possibility with the commission is possible and needs to be done. Otherwise, if we get, I agree that there is benefits here, and I believe that it's in the wrong commission. It doesn't belong there. That Economic Development Commission does not do economic development in the future for the county, nor defines that. They finance those things that are defined by the council and defined by the commissioners. And so it's totally in the wrong realm. Once we get the Economic Development Department in the right place, and if the commission still thinks they need one and the council still thinks they need somebody to administer these loans over and above what we can loan them, if you will, the department, then so be it. But as far as statutory authority goes, they have no authority to do these type things.
One of the questions I have as far as Economic Development Commission, do they, in their positions, do they actually control the day-to-day activities of the director?
Is the commission responsible for the day-to-day director?
Are they supposed to opt independent, just as if the director calls and needs them, that's when they respond, that they're not involved with the day-to-day activities of what the director, and they do not control the director, his daily obligations, or do they? What is their overseeing authority?
I think the statute provides that the commission is ultimately responsible for the director, meaning if they don't feel the director is fulfilling his obligations and meeting what he's supposed to do, it would be their obligation to either get him on an employment improvement plan or anything like that, or potentially terminate Doug. But ultimately, I think the commission, the three commissioners of the Economic Development Commission, are the ones that are ultimately responsible for the executive director.
So they actually control his day-to-day activities? They could?
In my opinion, yes. And that's the potential weakness of this statute and this scheme in this statute is when this ordinance was created and following the statute, these members are appointed and they have a term, and they are not, as some of the other boards, like for example that you guys can appoint, where people can be removed essentially for or with or without cause. And that's the difference in this situation. And I mean, that obviously that's a legislative issue slash, I mean that'd be the county council in that situation to determine if that, no, I mean in terms of determining whether an economic development commission needs to continue. The ordinance right now says the county council creates it. And so that's the flaw under the statutory scheme, is when you create it, you create an independent commission, so to speak, meaning they're appointed for a term. You don't have to reappoint them, but they're appointed for a term, and they can only be removed for cause in that situation.
And that's the reason why they're a finance only, because the council, that's the only administrative section that they can do, is appoint a commission. Otherwise, and it's only in finance, because that's the only thing that the council works with is finances. And they're not into administrative. What you're basically saying is that this commission would roll over and start doing an administrative thing that's part of the commissioner's responsibilities. And the executive and the legislative fall within the commission. And this body here is strictly a fiscal body for finances, not for any type of administration of economic development.
We're not completely disagreeing. What I'm saying is this body is bound by the statute and can only do those things that are granted per the statute. And it's not as to the council or the commissioners in that speak, where there's home rule, where the legislature has said under the home rule process they can do things that don't contradict state statute in that situation. So you have broad powers in your power, meaning as county commissioners. The Economic Development Commission has limited powers, and that is only through two avenues: through the statute and through that ordinance that created the commission.
Doug, I have a question for you. Since this is a decision that will be renewed yearly, you do understand that if either party backs out of this at the beginning of the year, then it will affect you, your financial.
Right, yeah.
I mean, I will make sure you know
Yeah.
that. And
So in theory, year one, you could be making X, and year two, go back to Y.
Yeah, and I think that, especially that being a yearly contract, I think if it's a pass, it could be revised or reevaluated at the end of that year and find out if it is or it isn't. You know, it's not
Right.
a long term. I've always been in agreement of doing this. I just think there's some clarity that needs to be worked out, and I'm trying to get my head around it. I think many times decisions in our county is made by, I like that, or that looks good, instead of really what's the facts of it. And I think that when we have debate like this, and it's good, and regardless if we agree with either side, I think that everyone has their right to voice their concern and have their argument. And I always been in favor for it. There's some details there that I haven't felt comfortable with, and these are some of the things. I mean, do you guys have it wrote out on this budget what you're doing with the 42,000? I mean, because right now, I mean, do you have something you passed in your meeting that signifies the money's going to X? You know?
Yeah, and so that statement I read just a few minutes ago, 15,000 for compensation, 2,000 for administrative assistant. Yeah.
Two-sided.
So,
There are some things missing off of that, by the way. With payroll.
Thank you.
you might tell us,
And insurance,
clarify.
payroll insurance.
So, compensation, I think, is great. I think that's someone in your position, and we need to keep you, and I have no problem with that. My question is how is this going to work? I mean, if they give the county X amount of dollars for your raise, that money should include all your benefits within that amount of money.
And
You know what I mean?
Yep,
If you
correct.
take that, you take that amount of money, and it's all structured toward all your withholdings, all your thing, where there's no extra. I mean, have you guys thought about how this works?
Well, I think obviously the commission can only within its budget spend what's in its budget. So for example, if that does, say 15,000 is allocated to additional compensation for the director, obviously he can't just say, he gets $15,000 gross more. It would be 15,000 is allocated to that portion of the budget to then say if there is, I mean, for example, I don't know if it's if it's an exempt or non-exempt employment, but obviously that would have to be part of it based on those issues, as well as you have county withholdings and that type of thing that have to be addressed. But they can only spend just the mere grant of 15,000 doesn't mean he gets 15,000 net
Plus,
more.
yeah.
It has to be, it goes in that budget, and then the money is allocated based on what's in that budget line.
And this was unanimously passed by the RISE board, right?
Yes.
Doug? Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
And you have been working, so I think part of this is just, you know, even though we may have some disagreements on the EDC structure, and I think that's a longer discussion that I don't think is ever going to be decided in a regular commissioners meeting. But I think Doug's been working out at the RISE right now, and he's been doing it based off his $55,000 from the economic development, or 60, whatever his salary is. And I think the RISE is showing good faith as they've already sent in a check. They're trying to get him paid because they see that he's doing work for them. So I would again strongly encourage a fellow commissioner to approve this agreement today, so things can start rolling with the auditor's office, the county council, and we can get our economic director some money. Not only that, the administrative assistant, money for the vehicle, which also is just, it's growing Vermilion County. These things are just, I don't see a bad thing listed in this agreement that hurts Vermilion County in any way. I only see good things and good possibilities. So with that, if there's no other discussion, I would like to make a motion to approve this agreement presented by the Economic Development Commission in partnership with the Reuse Authority.
Yeah, so
It's a motion, either it needs to be seconded or it dies.
as I said, I've always been in favor of this, but I'm also got some reservations.
There's a motion on the table, though, it needs to be seconded, and then we go into discussion, or it dies.
I'll second it. Call for a vote.
Discussion.
Discussion. There's more discussion to be had about this. And I want you all to know that there's more discussion.
If this would if this approved, one, it's against statute, against law, that if it would be approved, it's not even in the proper form as an interlocal agreement. So even at that, it's not even a proper agreement. So to pass this without it being in the proper form and then addressing the minimum requirements for an interlocal agreement, which that's basically what this is, then it's still got big problems. So
John, on
this
that?
is just totally wrong, guys.
I mean, I think it meets the bare minimum. I mean, it's only 6 sentences. The thing I saw was only 6 sentences long, but it looks like it meets the bare minimum of what the statute is asking for in terms of an interlocal agreement between economic development entities. I think it does. It's up to you guys if you want to insist on something that's more fleshed out. But
So you're saying it needs,
I think it meets the bare bones requirements of the statute.
but it needs more clarification.
Doesn't need it. It's up to you guys if you want more clarification.
Again, I just think moving forward with this, getting the director and the economic development this money, the funds, moving the county forward, I just don't see any reason to hold up this. And I do think further discussions in the future is needed for other items, but I think this here with the money and the vehicle is good for the county.
Was there some reservation with the council on the vehicle? Was there some reservation with the council on the vehicle?
Well, the vehicle has to be approved from the commissioners. Any purchase, any major purchase through the county has to be approved by the.
So the vehicle purchase is within y'all's discretion, or is it
It's
that
not in the
commissioner's
contract right
decision?
No, the second one they handed us is where they, like what Tim asked, where the economic development intends to use the funds as 1, 15,000, 2, 2,000, 3, 10,000 be allocated for the lease or purchase of a vehicle. And then the balance shall be allocated to the 1149 fund for a down payment of the vehicle.
But there are still other issues.
Which agreement are we looking at?
Oh,
This is a signed agreement.
That's a sign. I'm showing them the one they handed us that has the back that's listed everything.
Because the one we were initially shown was the one that was like 6 sentences.
Yeah, 6. Yeah,
long.
yeah. I was just reading off like when Tim had asked what the money's going to be spent for.
Some of the concerns that were raised to me were obviously make it more detailed so everyone from your side as well could see what some of the intentions were, and so that's the basis for having a little bit more fleshed out idea of what the responsibilities are, as well as what then the funds would be used for from the RISE side.
So this is the agreement that's in the motion?
I will motion either agreement. I can motion the simple one or the 2-page one. Either one of them works for me. I can motion either one of them.
Well, when you're given something at a later time and...
Was this emailed to us as well?
I sent John an email yesterday, but it was after it was in the afternoon.
If you sent it in the afternoon, I haven't read it yet.
So we're going to,
I mean, to give something today to...
Well, the other one, I mean, the simple one, like John said, meant the minimum requirements, and the second one, I would say, probably exceeds the interlocal agreement by looking at all how it's all itemized out all the way through.
Who wrote the first one that was sent through?
I directed it at their request, at the Economic Development Commission's request.
Okay.
Not to interject, but I think a lot of it's communication, because I think a lot of it, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know who do we go to, and I think that's the written part of it. We just need to know where we need to go, how you want us to do it. I mean,
Well, that was a question I brought up, because I think it's very important for Doug to find out who his boss is and who he answers to. And this conflict going on is not good.
I agree with
And I think it's not fair for him to be put in these situations. I also have very much reservations about the control of the finances of that. I believe that as far as my recommendation to the commission, that exists that so-called control him, I think he ought to have more flexibility, and I think that his day-to-day activities shouldn't be controlled by them. And that's my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I see
we
that
don't have
as
any say-so over that, then.
what?
We have no say-so over what they do with
Well,
their department.
That's a problem I have. I think that Doug should still have a voice. If there's an issue with that, then I think that that ought to be addressed. But it sounds like we as commissioners have no control of it. So it's like, you know, commission is his boss, and they can fire him, and I think that I kind of...
That's the reason
has
why we need
reservations
to have the
about this.
Economic Development Commission on the commissioner's side. They can have their department. Their department's supposed to be taking care of the loans, the bonds, the pollution control facilities, the CSOP plans, things like that they're actually spelled out in the legislature, in the statutes, as to what their responsibilities are. This is totally outside the realm of the commission and the commission's department. What this does, though, is it should be inside the Economic Development Commission, of which the commissioners are responsible for economic development. And we can do a number of different things, including loaning, or asking our Economic Development Department to administer the loans for the Economic Development Commission, and bonds or other instruments that they may be responsible for, up until the time that they have enough work to be able to have a full-fledged department. And that's the way it's supposed to work. This is getting convoluted, just like what happened with the building commissioner, the APC director, the solid waste director, the floodplain director. We somehow, by verbal, said we're going to let all those positions be one person, then they can have full-time position. It's very convoluted, and that's where we're headed again, is into a convoluted situation where we have crossing responsibilities, and we're letting the three directors define the future of the county, of which they're only responsible for the finances of the county, not the economic direction of the county.
John, on this issue, because we do have some issues here to work out, and I believe Britt has got a valid point also, can that be worked out at any time? I mean, this possibly could change if...
The problem I see is once you approve it, it looks like it's then between those two entities whether the agreement ever comes to an end. So that may be one thing you want to look at, is to what extent, once you give your approval, is there any way to ever withdraw that approval in the future?
That's a good point, because you're asking for us to approve something that's agreement between you two all, you know, between the RISE and economic development. So if you guys make this agreement, how can, if we decide we don't want to do it, I mean, it's not really saying that we have any authority here to do anything, as far as I can see, as far as your decision. You're coming to get our blessing, I assume.
In many ways, I would agree with that, and what I just talked with Doug about would be the idea of tabling this agreement until the next meeting to let John and I see if we can come up with a language that would be sufficient for the commissioners as well as for the Economic Development Commission. And I think we can work through and get that language cleaned up to deal with some of those concerns that you guys have, and we can get this thing in place. And I mean, your next meeting, I think, is in 2 weeks. Yeah, so we can get things worked through in the next 2 weeks and deal with some of those concerns. And I mean, ideally, we'd like to have it done today, but we also understand that sometimes a second set of eyes / a couple weeks to get things cleaned up is the way to do it. So that would be the way I think John and I can work through that, and he's got a draft right now essentially, and we can go through and talk about the concerns and language that he'd like to see added, and we can bring it and have them present it for the next meeting and see if it meets the muster that you guys want.
Like I said, I've always been in favor of it for a long time, and I am a favorite, but I think many times we make decisions in this county that are just, yes, it feels good, looks good, let's say yes, and until we need to back up in all of our decisions, say, let's do some evaluation of this, let's get this right the first time, let's don't have to redo it. And I think you're coming to that agreement now that we're not saying no to this. We just need more clarification. I think you had your hands up. You want to come speak?
And I did. And I think the council, I'll just put it this way, we did not approve a car originally for that position. I think that's kind of still where we're at, but again, this is one member of the county council. And I think originally also, we thought it was a good idea to pursue. I won't say that we gave our blessings that this is what we wanted done. It was, I think this is what we all need to talk about, and we need to continue to pursue it. So I agree with Luther, or Britton. I think they're more of a financial arm and not administrative arm. So I agree with what you guys are saying, is we all need to get together, iron it out, and then there is no question in the future of what the intent is. So I think we're rushing it if we vote on it, but I think it's a great idea to discuss it, because I think we all agree it's the right thing to do, but how do we do it? And let's iron it out so we don't have any future problems. So that's all I got to say.
So let's get back to the original discussion there. This disagreement is between the RISE and economic development, right?
The disagreement, what do you mean?
The agreement.
Oh,
This
agreement, sorry. Yeah, this agreement, sorry. I thought you said disagreement.
So I'm trying to
Yes.
say, there needs to be, I mean, you're coming to us for approval of something that really is between two other entities. So I'm trying to figure out, the question was, if this agreement is, then do we have any say-so in terminating it? I mean, we need clarification.
Right,
on
that would be the question. I mean, that is one of the questions, and one of the issues that is up for debate in this situation is, does the commissioners, do they actually have to bless this agreement? I think there's definite arguments to say, from my perspective, that we don't need that, but I think it's good governance to come to the commissioners and have an agreement working together on it. And that's really where the commissioners, for redevelopment wise, when I'm saying, or not redevelopment, sorry, economic development wise, would say is a better agreement, and something that for the long term for the county is working with the county commissioners to do this. And that's why we're here in this situation.
Okay. So that would need to be written into that agreement, right?
I would have no problem making that recommendation to my client to say, I think it's better. I mean, that's obviously a policy issue on that side, so that would be ultimately a decision of the commission that hired me, but ultimately that would be a recommendation I would make.
The other question I have is, since this is an economic development has one member on that board, we have one member, and the city of Clinton has one member on that board. So you have three different entities, and I mean, you're addressing us about, has the council came out with a firm decision that they support this? I mean, has that been addressed with the council? You said that, I'm saying if we're all involved in this, the council and the commissioners, I think that the commissioners, I mean, the council actually take care of economic development, right?
And if I might, just kind of short circuit that a little bit. In our last meeting, we discussed, talking with the county council and talking with the commissioners as well. It was my suggestion to come to you guys first with the idea that we were likely going to the council as well after that, but we had that discussion in our.
On the December 12th meeting, though, the council was told.
And I was not there for that.
Yeah, they spoke to him.
Yeah.
and
So there you
they
get
were
into,
all in agreement with
we're getting to a lot of things that can have variables. So if you go to the commissioner, they say, okay, go to council, they say, no, what's the decision? So there's.
But Ashley directed us to go to you. You guys needed to okay it first before the council had anything to do with it.
It's the process.
Have you talked to the city of Clinton since they're on that board as well?
I have not.
Has anybody? Has Buddy's one that's representative, isn't he? He's not here.
So I'm saying we have a lot of moving parts here, and I think that all of it ought to be involved if you're going to do it.
But I think that's our problem. We
Yep.
don't know who is,
Yep.
who is it that makes this decision? We
Yep.
need to know that.
The way it sounds like we don't know.
Should know.
That's why we'll need to address it in ordinance as opposed to this verbal stuff.
I don't disagree with Mr. Luther in terms of an ordinance might be an appropriate way to deal with some of his concerns. We may disagree on where the statute and where the ordinance reads on that, but in terms of, an ordinance that lays out things is not necessary in terms of an idea of what the guidance, what the governance is not necessarily a bad thing from the economic development side.
Right.
Whether or not, and we'd have to then interpret it and review it to see if that actually controls anything. I'm not saying it does or doesn't, but obviously knowing where the commissioner's office is on this matter is not going to be a bad thing from our side to at least have that.
Right.
And then we just have to look at it and evaluate it based on what the statute and what the governing ordinance says to see where everything falls.
Agree.
Like I said, I think that I support the idea 100%, but I said there's just details that need to be worked out. And I don't even feel bad about this, Doug, or anybody, or even I appreciate Annie bringing up this question, because this question needs to find. So from this standpoint on, then the statement is the commission controls his position and can hire and fire him, and they're in ultimate control of Doug.
That is my position based on what the statute, yes.
As long as they're inside their department. We can have our own economic development department also, though.
I don't disagree with that. That can be, that is a home rule issue that can be done, whether, obviously, that's a policy issue for the county commissioners to determine.
And council.
Understand, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're having good discussion, and Doug, I think you agree too, and everybody agrees there's nothing wrong with getting answers. And like I said, too many times yes, and then oops, let's work this out, and as far as you guys agree, we'll table it and bring it up for next discussion at next meeting.
There's a motion that you need to address, so
Okay,
either call for the vote or withdraw the motion. If he's not withdrawing the motion, you second it, and there needs to be a vote.
Yeah, I'm gonna let the motion stand. I still believe that this could be done today. I don't disagree that the two lawyers could get together and iron out the agreement, but I'm not gonna withdraw my motion because I do believe it could be approved today, and that's where I'm gonna stand on it. So.
Where do you go here from, John, for procedure?
Well, you've got a motion, you need to vote on it, if the discussion's done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll have further discussion, and we'll move forward, but we'll get our details right. And I think everybody feel more comfortable. When I get this thing yesterday, kind of hard to, it's kind of a good.
So just for clarification, Eric and John will work together over the next 2 weeks, and we'll be
Try to
back on
iron
the
out
20th.
something that's agreeable to everyone.
And we'll be back on the 28th.
Well, there may be an ordinance also by that time, too. to
Right,
address.
but the conversation, and hopefully by the 28th, we'll be.
Like I said, I don't want anybody out there to think I'm against anything about this. I'm for moving the county forward, but I'm also very much interested in making details and getting it right the first time. So,
The idea is a reasonable idea. It's not that. It's the way in which it's governed is the issue, and allow a commission that's developed by the council is not the way to go.
And
Do you mind
Here we
just
go.
putting Doug's name on the stuff for the RISE right now, though, because we're submitting stuff to people for like the spec building.
That's up to the RISE.
That's up to them.
Well, they gave me permission to do that, but I didn't know if that was something with this, since we don't have this agreement set.
That's up to him.
The RISE has already voted on it and made Doug.
You're part of the Economic Development Commission right now, as far as I can tell. That's not the way it was supposed to have been structured. When we got rid of the council, the Economic Development Department was supposed to become a department of the commissioners, and that didn't happen, or somehow or another, it ended up evolving into the commission. So right now, we'll probably continue on that route until we make an ordinance and define it better. So that's really up to your commission at this point.
I want to make sure you guys were okay with us submitting Doug's
All right.
name on the RISE stuff.
Thank you for your time.
I have
today.
no problem with Doug, you know what you gotta do, and you
Thank
do
you.
what's best for the county, so.
And prior to us moving on, if John or Eric can make sure that we get sent that agreement prior to the meeting,
Yeah.
whatever you guys get towards or work towards, and let us review it. And then if there is an ordinance, I'd like to see that sent to us prior to the meeting as well, because I imagine there's going to be a lot of discussion on an ordinance. I don't think we're all in favor one way or the other. I think we've all got our opinions on that. So.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Anytime you send anything to us to decide, please do not send it the night before, because automatically, that's a no-no. I'm just telling you. Because if we don't have the time to look at things, and rush decisions will burn you every time. And so if you want to send something else, you want us to examine, anybody out there, please send it several days ahead so we have time to evaluate it. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on. Thank you, Doug. Our jail contract and yearly review.
I'm going to keep Doug up here too with me. He's getting his standing right now. I have 4 sets of these, if you don't mind passing those down, one each. First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for having me here today. It's crazy that this has gone by almost a year in. It's been a pleasure working with Doug to get some of these branding, marketing, lobbying efforts done. So I'll try to be as quick as possible, but first I want to go through a report of services. It's pretty broad lens of what we've done up to this point. I'm going to start with the marketing and PR, a list of completed items and then some pending. Number 1, created and implemented a social media strategy that was approved by Doug. Refreshed all social media platforms, including the branding, along with their current brand, while we were building this new brand. The social medias that we launched were LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. One thing I did not include, because I don't want to take credit for it at all, because Doug did almost all the work and he's done great with it, the podcast, the Vermillion Reasons podcast, which is great. So RJL does not want to take any credit for that, because Doug has done an incredible job. After that,
Did you name it? Vermillion Reasons?
Yes, our lobbyist came up, Ryan Ritchie came up with that name. So
Well, the Vermillion
spot on, I
Reasons.
like that.
thank you.
Was the Vermillion Reasons?
Vermillion Reasons. Well,
That's pretty good.
and he said it as a joke, but I was like, no, that's actually a really good idea.
It's funny where things come from.
Past 10, 11 months, we've been posting relevant and consistent content. We send a month's worth of scheduled content to Doug at the beginning of the month. Once he approves those, they're on schedule, they get posted. But Doug knows this, and this is no problem at all, but he sends us additional posts throughout the month as things come up, just as ideas, and we post those as well. We got headshots done for the website and other marketing initiatives that we'll include on marketing pieces this session. As far as the branding went, we surveyed Vermillion County to receive community response for the branding process. Through the survey, we approximately received around 300 responses. I think it might have been a little bit more than that. We hosted 2 community forums to receive community response. Britton, I believe you're at one of those. So we took both the survey data and data from those forums to kind of get our creative juices flowing. One bullet point that I included in this section that I probably could have included somewhere else was host a one-day strategic plan retreat to develop legislative priorities, additional branding data, kind of big picture goals for the EDC that we put into a document, or what we might call a playbook, just for Doug to be able to use when he needs to. We delivered that document after that. We reviewed qualitative data from the survey and forums to begin the branding process. We presented round 1 of the branding options in November to Doug. I believe those were sent to you. We received some feedback. We received some feedback. Decided to go through a second round, so we completely changed it up, started over. After review 1, We reviewed the data and feedback again to present a round 2 of branding, which we had done in December and started sending that out. An additional PR thing that we did was we released a press release for preliminary planning to bring new homes to Northern Vermilion County across from the offices. Pending right now, considering we have, I think, a month left of the contract-ish, feedback on round 2 of the branding, because once Doug made the decision to kind of send that to you guys, get your opinion, because we don't want to move forward with anything that you guys are not in support with. Once we get that green light, we'll finalize the brand initiative. We'll announce a new branding via press release, social media release, and potentially a press conference. That's why I have an asterisk next to that. We'll begin implementing the new brand into all social media platforms. We will create a brand strategy and brand guide, which is how the county and Doug will be able to use that brand moving forward, and RJL, in hopes that we continue this contract. Any questions about the marketing and PR before I move on to the relationship building?
Have you thought about including any of your information and all that on our county site? Has that been addressed?
I'm sorry?
Using our county website also for this. I think that it would be a good idea to include on our site.
We have had some conversations about that, but right now we don't want to do anything until we do the branding, because we think that would be a good way to kick that off.
Okay.
Because then we can start promoting the website.
Okay.
Yep.
And if we were to implement some of this current branding, considering we're hoping it to change in 2 months, we'd be doing a little bit of work for only a month's worth of
Right.
attention. And then
I'm
we'd
just
have to
saying the
change
site, our site is there
to use. Awesome. I'm going to hit on a couple of the relationship building points, because that is in the scope of work. Doug is now on the West Central 2025 board. This was a board created kind of through the Terre Haute Chamber that is bringing a regional approach to just getting initiatives done. They're in the beginning phases. We've structured the board. They're in the process of figuring out what exactly they're all going to be going after. We hosted Doug at the Vigo County Commissioners Update just to form relationships there. Doug came to the Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch Membership Forum hosted by the Terre Haute Chamber of Commerce. Doug was able to go to a John Ford legislative fundraiser in Indianapolis, also a fundraiser with Alan Morrison. We facilitated a conversation, we as in not me, as in our lobbyists, facilitated a conversation via lunch with Spencer Deary. There was a regional conversation with Okra that I was not a part of, but a lot of these were sent in from my team. And I'll hit on this really quickly. Doug, we were able to connect Doug with Greg Good and the IEDC. This was something that had to move very, very quickly, where $50,000 from the READY funds was up for grabs, and we knew that Doug had a couple projects, so we asked if he had any. We presented those to the IEDC. We're hoping that that's moving forward very soon.
Now, going back to that, I was at the State House 2 weeks ago talking with Greg Good, and he made a recommendation to get with you guys on this READY grant. Is that?
Yes. Yes.
So I would like to make sure you get that on your schedule, because we have something pending now. We got approval last night to develop plans for a new ambulance facility.
Awesome.
And
Yep.
talking with Good in Indianapolis the other day, he acted like it looked good for us possibly getting funding. So I need to get on your agenda or schedule too, and you could be in that. So I just want to put that.
Yes, and just so I'm transparent, RJL's relationship with the READY process is that we are a client of the RDA, so we have been building the applications for the RDA for them to apply for the READY grants.
Okay.
So we're kind of in the middle of that whole process, and we're following that legislation right now. As soon as the state gives the green light on round 2, we're going to be moving quickly with starting to get
That's why
applications together, which we'll include everybody in those conversations.
You don't have a date on that, sorry to interfere.
On the READY?
Yeah.
By the end of session, we'll know.
Okay.
And then application is, I think, going to be due by, I think the first round, it was around October when you have to submit the application based off the previous legislation.
It's $500 million in it. That's what I heard last.
Yes, we're hoping that they, the previous round, they made some rules up front that weren't quite followed. They were going to give 500 million to 10 regions. They ended up splitting the 500 million between all 19. So we're fighting for the original rules to stay in play so we can advocate for a larger amount than the previous 20 million. Government relations, obviously we're only a month and a half in to the session. So to just hit on a couple points, advocated state and federally to mitigate the impact of NDOT proposed plan to restructure State Road 163. Doug was a huge part of that. We helped craft a letter in support of the Wabash Valley Resources Project to open Vermilion County EDC opportunities. Doug had the chance, I was not there, but Doug had the chance to testify on House Bill 1046, which ended up passing unanimously, so they must have liked you, Doug. Tomorrow we have a very big day. We're hosting a State House Day with Doug and about 20 other people coming along with him, where Doug will be able to communicate with roughly 75 legislators in a 2-hour period through boxed lunches, and we have marketing pieces ready to be able to hand out to them as well. Oh yes, and then Doug was also invited to attend the House Ways and Means meeting based around that House Bill 1046. So Alan Morrison suggested that Doug be there, although we will not be testifying or talking. Very broadly, we're tracking all legislation relevant to Vigo County, not just the EDC. A couple points: child care development, road infrastructure, broadband, housing, ready, etc. There's rumor that there's going to be a new round of the Next Level Connections, the broadband grant that we did through Joink about a year ago-ish. So that might be conversations, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months down the road, just a heads up. Very quickly, and we don't need to spend too much time on this today, but the next set of papers I included were the branding that we sent a little over a month ago. I would just say, I think it's very important that we try to move this forward in the next month with the help of you guys. If not, we would not be charging the finishing of this rebranding process in the new proposal. So if for some reason we need to go through another round and gets pushed another 2-3 months to finish it up, that would still be charged from the original proposal. So it won't overlap into this one. But there's 3 logo options with 2 different slogans: Visit Venture Vermilion and Visit Value Vermilion. These were all keywords that we found through the data. So we're open to suggestions still, but just for sake of time, we'd really like to move forward soon. So I think Doug and I can continue reaching out and try to figure that out.
TJ, has all the commissioners responded to that, or no?
We've heard your response. Britton, we have some feedback from you as well.
Okay.
Still waiting to hear back from Tim, so whenever you have a chance.
I think they all kind of look good. I forget now which one I even said a month ago, because they all look good again. I don't even know which one I said.
You said 3.
Was it 3?
The Vermilion County with the V.
Okay.
That's kind of based off of the river.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be, I can give it to you once I'm done.
In the middle one looks the best, I think.
Here, you can
I
take
think your
mine.
logos are looking good. It's just the branding. Slogan.
Okay.
It just hasn't, like your Vermilion Reasons, I mean, that just popped. And I can't say you've hit the slogan yet.
Okay.
That's,
Which we can, so are we opposed
I don't know what
to,
it
are we
is, but-
opposed? Because in the original conversation, one of the first rounds of branding that we went through, Vermilion Reasons was actually one of those options. And based off of feedback, we decided to go a separate direction. Our recommendation from RJL, which you don't have to take this, is that it's okay to keep branding cohesive with a podcast. It's okay that they'd be the same. It actually helps build that brand even more. So if that's a direction we're wanting to go, because we love that branding or that slogan, we might even be able to add something along the lines of Vermilion Reasons to Stay, or you can add something to the end to make it broaden it a little bit more. But yeah.
I think it might be best instead of just sending it to us as having a roundhouse discussion with the commissioners as opposed to.
The emails, texts, and calls.
It's-
Okay. Maybe we could work on setting up a time to review with a couple of our members too that
Just
are
a
actually doing the
suggestion.
thing. Yeah, no, I think that'd be helpful. It might be able to let us move forward a little quicker.
Concentrated effort and discussion, because we didn't, collectively, we've not discussed any of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think that'd be a good next step. I believe this is the first time this has been in front of you, so I don't expect to move forward with anything today, but I want you guys to take a quick look. I'm going to jump straight to the scope of work in the back. It's not super different from this previous year. One thing that has been removed is the branding process. Because we're done with that, we're not going to have to do a rebrand again. But we included the continuation of the marketing and PR, which will also include still implementing the new brand once it's finalized. Relationship building is still on there. State lobbying will still be on there because we have a couple more months of session left, but we'll still be working in the summer to connect Doug and Vermilion County with legislators relevant, preparing for the next session.
One of the questions I have with that is, how many counties do you guys represent?
Right now, we represent Vigo County, or the city of Terre Haute, the city of Crawfordsville, and Vermilion County.
So you don't have any other counties that you
Those
represent?
are the three. At one point in time, about a year ago, we were advocating, we were not registered lobbyists, but we were helping with relationships with Davies County. Since then, we are no longer on contract.
Well, one of the things that when you're talking about legislative, that's one of our problems we have with our county, is not having influence, let's say influence.
The voice at the State House.
And that's really promoting Vermilion County to State House. We don't have that. And when you're talking about, representing lobbyists are you actually can be a voice for us? Then, opportunities come available at the state level, and if you don't know about it, you got to have a strong presence in the State House. And I think Spencer Dury, our new elected, will work good with us. But we need that extra help at the State House to make things happen in Vermilion County. I don't know if that's something that you're actually addressing.
So House Bill 1046, was that something
RISE.
RJL and
I can
RISE?
kind of address that. Ryan Ritchie and Eric Perry are the two full-time lobbyists for RGL Solutions. I am constantly in contact with them. Every week I get an update of where we are. They also give me a list of 5 or 6 bills that we need they highlight and say, let's keep a focus on this. Do you have any input on XYZ, whatever that may be? So I would say that they are right there, and any time and every time I've needed something, they've been Johnny on the spot. So whether Tim would call me, RJ or Brent would say, hey, we need to do this, I pass it right on to their legislative team, and literally within minutes sometimes I'm getting a response that they're on it. House Bill 1046 was one that Ryan took to Alan Morrison. We met with him in December right before Christmas to strengthen this, so we are getting that in there. But I think it goes to a larger question, is what do we want from Vermilion County? So we could do all the promotion of Vermilion County, but if we don't have an agenda and know what we want, I would argue that it's almost meaningless to some degree.
To tag on to that, basically everything's been going through Doug, but you got to remember this is legislature, and we have other concerns other than economic development as well.
Okay.
So there's land planning, et cetera, some other things that are going on in the legislature that's not economic oriented. I don't know that maybe we shouldn't be still funneling them through Doug, since we don't have a point of contact or a department for this per se. So,
and I agree with you, Britton, because what's good, whether it's ABC, it's still good for the county, and I would argue fits into some degree economic development in some way.
it does, but it's just some things are not economic development.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
I still think we need to probably try to get them through a point of contact through.
Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea at all. And just to ease that worry just a little bit, all the tracking of the bills isn't just what can hurt or help Doug. It's Vermilion County as a whole. So we are keeping an eye out for all things Vermilion County.
We do
But I
get those-
agree that maybe a point of contact would help there.
We do get that information through the websites through IACC, but I still think we should probably try to, otherwise we may have you going opposite directions on the same issue.
Yeah. We'll have to figure out a way to make sure So you guys are represented along with Doug, but making sure it's cohesive and there's clear communication as well. Because right now, we're obviously just going through Doug.
And it might be nice to hear from you more than just by the time that we get to an annual statement here.
I spoke 6 months ago.
Okay, semi-annual statement.
Okay, so maybe something we can include in this scope, and we can resend it to you guys. Maybe quarterly updates on what we're having.
Oh, I don't know. It's just a suggestion.
Okay, that's fine.
I like hearing from you guys. So anyway,
well, I'm glad. One thing that both Doug and Britton, I think a couple months ago, you requested. This is not final, but we did include this in a 2-year contract for you guys to look at. If that's still the case, if something you guys are interested, then great, we can move forward with it. If not, we can go back to that 1 year if deciding to move forward. But we just wanted to keep the conversation open.
I'd rather a year.
the reason why I suggested that is it gives continuity of program whenever we're looking at something like what this is. This is almost like a professional service, if you will. And if you don't know by the end of each year, well, do I have a contract, do I not? Do I put the effort forward or do I not? And the issue there is that if you have a term period or a period of 2 years, and sometimes they're like 3 years, I don't know that you want to go beyond 3, but you can always terminate them, but they always have a continuity of program that can be terminated if you have to. If it's just totally going the wrong direction, sure. There's a poison pill that can always be taken. But I think that they need to have an understanding that they have a continuity program. That's, I think, part of the problem that they have going into this time is that, well, do I have a contract come March or do I not? And so we get to the March date, and do we continue or do we not? Or the month before, how much effort do you put forward to something like that?
Yeah.
That's why I think it should be a longer term.
Which we're definitely open to either conversation. One thing that I haven't said that is in addition to the previous contract, since the marketing or the rebranding portion's leaving, Doug has requested that grant development is included in the scope, where we'd be researching each month, sending opportunities to both Doug and yourself, and then making decisions. If you do want to move forward with a specific grant, we can provide that writing service as well.
When you say, are you pursuing the grant or are you preparing the grant?
We are doing the research up front, finding grants that could be beneficial to Vermilion County. Once we find those grants, we send a monthly update of what's available. Discussion, we decide to move forward with X and Y, then we move on to us writing that grant.
But there's another fee for that, right?
There's a fee schedule
right.
that I should
That's fine.
I should have added it to the end of this, but yes, if you guys decide to go for one of those grants,
right,
there's a fee associated to that.
So I'm trying to figure out back to that. I know we're taking a lot of time, but it's been educational for everybody here.
It's educational for us.
Yeah, for us too. But I'm trying to figure out your relationship with the Ready Grant. I mean, is it just you guys are taking this up to try to get people?
So there's two ways that we're associated with it. Number one, our lobbying department is a part of all of those conversations because multiple of our clients are concerned with the Ready Grant. So at the state level, we're part of those conversations. But RGL, outside of just lobbying, is under contract with the Wabash River RDA.
Okay.
They are the ones submitting the application on behalf of our region.
Okay.
RGL is the one facilitating the conversation, finding the project, bringing the people to the table, and then putting together that application to give to the RDA to submit. Does that answer it?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
So just let me know, and I can come to the next meeting or whatever, and we can continue the proposal conversation. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Only thing I want to say is, Elvis said, I am leaving the building.
You got to stay to the end.
Lucky you.
We need to move on. So for any of these things we can brief, let's make them brief if possible. Britton, you got something on town hall?
I don't know what the date is, next Tuesday. I'd like to have a town hall. Nobody has to attend, but the town hall is basically to discuss the status of the theater downstairs. As there's been discussion roundabout from different office holders saying make it office space, use it for storage, do something with it, move the commissioner's office or room downstairs, etc. I had the idea of this actually becoming a theater again, multi-use type facility. but I'm not sure that there's any support for that. So if there isn't any support, or even as a daycare or as a community service area, or whether we're going to make offices out of the whole place, that's what I'm wanting to try to do with the town hall is to get community input as to where do we want to go with this, because right now it's just a poor meeting room is what it is right now, and the stage is almost worthless as far as being utilized at all. If it's not something that the community wants as a theater or as an arts type venue or for showing movies, etc., but having basically a community effort into it, so be it. But we need to start utilizing or moving toward utilizing that area. And again, if it's not to be a theater or an auditorium any longer, I'd like to get input to what people would like to see in it anyway. Or maybe everybody wants it to be a theater. I'm not sure in my discussions I've seen very much support for that at this point, regardless of cost, whether it costs $1 or $1 million. What do we want to use that for? And I don't. Anyway, that's why the town hall. 1 o'clock, I think. Shoot.
What day?
It'd be next Tuesday.
21st?
Could be.
Yep, that's fine.
And what time?
2 times there. One during the day. Unfortunately, that computer won't pull up my calendar. Should have wrote it down. Tuesday at 1 o'clock, and this will be down in the theater or the auditorium, and at 6 o'clock. That'll give people an opportunity that's here during the day, can maybe come in and drop in. Be about an hour. We can take longer if need be, if there's interest or anybody shows up. If nobody shows up, it won't be an hour. And at 6 o'clock, same thing. So if you'll spread the word, if anybody has an interest, if you have an idea of what you want to see, maybe even something else, whatever it might be. But I'd like to get some consensus, because I don't think we have one yet regarding this, and I'd like to get input. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
You can show up or don't show up. It's just input, community input.
Yeah. I will say, Britton, off your comment about not having a lot of community support, I will say the majority of citizens I've talked to, I don't think there's a consensus that they would like to see that restored as a theater. I think they'd rather see it be something else, but I'm not sure what that something else is.
Well, that's kind of the impression I'm getting too. I'd like to see a theater. That's why I really want in there, but it doesn't appear that there's
a lot of community
broad support for it anyway, or maybe any support for that matter.
Well, that's good. At least you're seeking comment from the people, and that's the way we operate. Next, county ordinance and courthouse. The county ordinance, we'll do that first.
Yeah, we have 2 ordinances before us. I'm going to read these by title. The courthouse was closed on 2 separate occasions. I'd like to approve both these in the same motion if it's no objection to the commissioners. County ordinance, I'd like to make a motion to approve county ordinance number 2023-1, an ordinance closing the courthouse on January 25th, 2022 due to inclement weather. And county ordinance number 2023-2, an ordinance closing the courthouse at 9:30 a.m. on January 30th, 2023 due to having no heat in the building. Those are my motions for both those ordinances.
Second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have courthouse closed procedure. I would like for us to come up with some type of procedure for closing the courthouse. Another thing that we got going on right now is we have no monitoring of the facilities remotely in case of issues. And I've talked to Terry Carrera, and he's going to try to come up with talking to Sycamore, who does the work here, about coming up with some type of alert system. I've dealt with water utilities for years, and all of our water utilities were monitored 24 hours a day, and when something happened, it would alert us that it was wrong. And I think that's something we do not have in this courthouse, is some type of alert system in case he has failure in the middle of the night, then it would give us a lot more control over outage. And so that's one of the things that I would like to see happen. I think we just need to draw up some type of procedure on courthouse closing, and whether it be 1, 2, or 3, but I think we need to come up with solution or something that works.
So Tim, is
That's
there
good.
currently a problem with the procedure, how we do it now?
Well, I just think that there's need to be more input into it. I think that last time the courthouse was down, and then within an hour or two, it was back up. And I'm not saying it's wrong at all. I'm just saying I'm just open to discussion because I'm trying to figure out how that decision. I don't know how the other counties do it.
Well, I know when me and Britton were elected a couple of years ago, you had told us that each one of us had the authority to do something, and I was delegated the authority to do the courthouse. And in the last 2 years, I don't believe there's been any problems in closing the courthouse, and Brendan can attest to this. I don't think I've ever used the authority to close it just to have a party on a Monday or a Wednesday or whatever that may
No one
be.
said that. No
I
one
know,
said
I'm
that.
just making
No one said that.
a
No one said
comment. And there's times, Tim and Brendan can attest to this, or probably other office holders. Britton sometimes is busy. He returns my phone calls or text. With your work schedule, it's tough. I can call you if you're at work. And there's been instances where there's been no water at the courthouse, and I can't wait for 2-3 hours for consensus from the commissioners. On the heat issue, you were busy at work. I called Britton, got in contact with him, and it was suggested to not do it until it got below 65 degrees or something, which I believe most offices were already at 60 degrees. And at that time, we evaluated the situation, called Terry, and he had no idea when it was going to get back on. And I didn't feel comfortable leaving the courthouse employees, or even the community for that matter, coming into the courthouse if it was 50 degrees, 55 degrees. So I don't see a problem with the current procedure. If you or Britt would like to take it over and make the calls yourself, I'll be more than happy to step aside and give that to you guys, because believe me, office holders, they all call you, especially when there's an issue. But it is tough getting a hold of a second or third commissioner at times, and I know Brenda again can attest to that. So I don't
know
see-
you mentioned that, so I got to mention it. Last time what happened is you called me, and one of my opinion, I told you I was on my way to work, and I will call you when I get to work and look at the weather, and the decision was made before I even got to work. So
Okay.
I'm just saying. So
But-
when you say that, please back it up. And
Well, Tim, in 2 years, there's times you don't answer. That was one that the decision needed to be made. Inclement weather changes fast, and to wait to say, hey, people have kids, they have things they have to, monitor. It's a tough thing, and like I said, if you or Britton want to take this over, I'll be more than happy to step aside today, and you guys can oversee the courthouse closures. But in 2 years, I do not think, under my authority of closing it, I've ever done it in a wrong way or any way to say, hey, take a day off and enjoy it. It has been closed for the safety of not only the citizens, but the staff of this courthouse.
I don't know if there's been a problem with it. Would it be helpful, though, to have parameters?
Just have a
set up?
procedure.
Well,
That's all I'm saying, a procedure.
but
To help you, well, it
Well,
gives everybody an idea.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to some parameters, but to say I have to wait until I hear from Tim is just ludicrous. I can't do that.
I don't. that's
Or
not what I'm saying.
but you know what I'm saying. I don't know what parameters we could seek. Would it be?
I don't know.
I'm just getting it out for discussion, and like right now, like the recommendation I made, I think you all would agree with it. We need remote monitoring of the heating and cooling
Oh
system.
no,
That's what we're talking about. How can we make this work better?
well, you'd suggested, or you had mentioned about, we closed before I heard back from you. Well, the weather was getting worse, and I couldn't wait any longer to make the decision. And if you guys feel that I've made decisions in the wrong, then I've never heard that in 2 years. I haven't.
I don't think you have, that I know of.
It's just open for discussion.
No.
Some of the questions I have, like Melissa Carty doesn't get necessarily know, what closes, just the courthouse, or does it mean that the Board of Health closes, the Highway Department office closes?
Yeah. And those are good conversations to have. Yeah,
that's
but
That's what we're trying to do.
But for the courthouse to say, hey, we need to make sure you notify each or hear from each commissioner, I think that's kind of a hard thing to do. I think
I
that's.
don't know that
agree.
that's reasonable, but
Yeah.
I'd like to know what we're closing, when we
Yeah.
close something.
No, I completely agree. Normally, an all-county email sent out and a group text is sent out to everybody. I think we're pretty prudent. I'm sure things could improve, but I'm sure there's times, like I know Judge Hall, he wasn't notified last time, I think, but one of his staff members were, so that was something
I don't know all the nuances that go in it. I guess the court there's issues, a lot of issues, and I don't know what all of them are. One of them's the court, because if they're doing something, they have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
don't
gotta
know
do
what
some
it is.
notification, yeah, so.
But I don't know exactly how that protocol goes.
I'm just saying more clarification about the procedure and how it affects, and how can we make this You know, it's like other offices in the county, they say, well, the courthouse gets off and I don't get off, you know, it's like.
And those are discussions we have, but,
Yeah.
but for the notification though, I just think that no matter who's in charge of the courthouse to notify, I think it'd be tough to ask them to notify or wait to hear from all commissioners,
I think that's been working all right. It's just I have questions on
Yeah.
what's closed, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, I have no issues with that, so.
So it's okay to go ahead and try to get some quotes to do the remote monitoring, would you?
I'm in
agree?
favor of that.
Okay, that would give us that's a problem we have in the courthouse. I think it's smart, it's good money well spent.
Yeah.
So, we'll just leave things set for what it is right now, and then if you guys want to come up with, you know, some recommendations of how everything works.
It would
I
be
think-
nice to know, because I do get those questions as well. Is this the courthouse, is this
Is
this,
this, yeah.
is this, you
Yeah.
know?
And all we're doing is trying to figure out some clarity on how
Done.
the process
Yeah.
works.
That's fine.
So, okay, make some recommendations.
Helps Brenda out so she don't have to get off.
Okay, the extra meeting, we canceled the, what, 2 or 3 meetings?
It was August. We've already passed the one. This is the August.
It's the one that had 3 meetings in it, because in January I made the suggestion to do the same meeting schedule as 2022, which was 2 meetings a month, and then we unanimously agreed in January to do that and cancel the 3rd meeting in January and the 3rd meeting in August.
This is specifically August 29th.
As
It
far
does
as,
affect 2 meetings. I guess questions whether we can really afford to go basically a month between meetings to do that. I don't know if it's good or bad. I kind of
just
like
think
the
that-
idea initially, but I'm not so sure that we don't run into issues.
and then we schedule extra meetings and we think, well,
And that's harder on me personally,
huh?
because of things I have going on in other meetings and other things. When you cancel a meeting.
It sounded
to
like a good
reschedule
idea,
it,
but I'm not
that's-
sure it is.
I'm in favor of putting it back on there because like I said, there's a lot to do and then it just,
Unless it's a morning meeting. I like evening meetings better.
I make a motion to put it back on. You can vote it down or vote it back up, or I mean, say yes or no, but we got too much stuff going on in my opinion. But I'm making a motion on it, and you guys do what you want to with it.
Well, second motion, just so we can have more discussion about it. What do you think, RJ?
I'm not opposed to it, but I think in 2022 having 2 meetings a month was good, and I think Brenda made a really good suggestion. I'd like to limit some of these. Some of these, meetings get a little long. Like even today, we're at 10 o'clock, and we haven't really acted on a lot of business today. So I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but some of these meetings I feel like we'll have for 3 hours, and the action items we're not, acting on a lot.
That's a good point. Maybe it's a business meeting. If we have anything critical, we'll take care of it, but basically approving the minutes, et cetera,
Yeah.
the accounts.
Yeah, I
And-
would.
And then if we have anything critical that can't wait until the next time, those are only line
Yeah,
items that we'll cover.
I'm okay with adding it back on as long as it's not a
Yeah,
3-page.
I kinda like that idea.
Add it on where it's just immediate needs or something, and if there's something we really need to discuss, have it on there, and I'd be in favor of that.
So that's more of an operational thing, so we do want to, I guess, call for the vote and.
Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It'll
Okay.
be a when understanding that it's a working, or just a
Yeah.
short
Okay,
version.
we're gonna get some other people up here to speak. How's that? You're getting a good performance today, I guess. Lengthy. Hamilton Center, quarterly report. You're finally get to come and speak.
Tell him you're back. I'm gonna tell him there's no solid with his meeting.
Okay, so I'm Mandy, I'm the program manager. It's been a while since I've been here. I just thought I would go through the Vermilion County 2022 report on behalf of our CEO and President, Mr. Burks. I believe you all got a copy of that in December. And you can stop me, I'm gonna spout a bunch of numbers and give you some information, but you can stop me if you have questions. So, in 2022, we served a grand total of 572 clients in Vermilion County. 105 of those were between the ages of 0 and 12, 57 between the ages of 13 and 17, 77 were between the ages of 18 and 24, 192 were between the ages of 25 and 44. 124 were between the ages of 45 and 64, and 17 were 65 and older. So we have 373 clients with Medicaid. We also had some other payers through like Anthem, Health Net, Medicare, private insurance, self-pay, and then state, local hospitals, that kind of funding. But that is kind of where the majority of the insurance is coming through, is through those Medicaid payers. So your referral sources for people in your county include behavioral health or other outpatient providers, so Valley Professionals, places like that. Family, friend, self would be about 40 people that we had come in with that. 2 from Community Corrections, 13 through court, 46 through the Department of Child Services or DCS. We had 6 from legal, other attorneys, that kind of thing. 58 from probation, 20 from like the medical ER side, so emergency room services. Maybe they have a stay in the hospital, their social worker may contact us or give us a referral that way. 4 came from a primary care physician. So, and then we had 33 school referrals as well, which is great. We had 169 clients that were adults that we provided addiction services or treatment to, either through Matrix, Relap, motivational interviewing. And we had 3 youth which were provided addiction services. Your top 5 primary substances that we've seen: alcohol, stimulant, cannabis, opioid, and tobacco. So I also have a page in here, and I think you guys will find this interesting, right? So under 200% of poverty of the clients that we're serving are 89%. So
say that again. If you would.
89% of the consumers that we're serving are under 200% of our poverty level. We provided 195 inpatient days, so hospitalizations, people in crisis that had to go to our inpatient unit or to another inpatient unit. So, and then we had 9,522 outpatient services that we provided in the last year. We had $694,913,000 in salaries and benefits, $552,358 in expenses, $243,750 for the cost of inpatient stays. So our total expenses for Vermilion County totaled to be $1,491,000. We provided $22,462 of charity care. And then our county tax support came in at $84,080.
That's mandated, isn't it, by state?
I believe so, yes. So total, our count of adults provided mental health treatment, we had 296 total adults at 144 youth that were provided just mental health treatment. So.
That's cases, but not count, or not individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
How many practitioners do you have in the county?
Well, this has been interesting. It's been ongoing. So right now, I have 7 care managers. I have a position that's open. I have a full-time therapist currently, and we have 1 clinical supervisor. And then I also have 2 intern therapists right now.
Are they not overworked with the numbers you had?
I would say No, I mean, we serve the population that we can, and we're keeping up, absolutely. So,
how do you measure success?
you know, success is case by case, individual by individual. What you and I view as success, completion of a service, doesn't always look like that, right? So we measure success in movement, whether it's small movements forward, whether it's engagement in services sometimes is a success for that specific consumer. So
I guess since there's no numerical value really, are you successful?
I think we are. You know, I believe we are, and I believe we serve our consumers to the best of our ability. We're in the schools, we're meeting with our families, we're providing those therapy services, you know, we're providing those case management and skills. I'm a big proponent for skills. I think you guys have heard me talk about that before. You know, that's where we make a lot of strides in stability and growth and education. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any questions? All right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Next, we have some commissioner appointments. Board of Zoning Appeals, John Graves.
I think you got, LLC on there.
Okay. Thanks for correcting me. I'm getting ahead of this. Wonder why.
Okay, this is the proposal I emailed you about 10 days ago, and but I want you to have it. Yeah. With you.
Thank you.
I am Elaine Pastore, the coordinator for the local coordinating council for drug-free Vermilion County, and that is known as LCC. And at our last meeting in February 2nd, Pastor Lynn Dunning came and presented her proposal to us, and I'm going to read our minutes here about LCC President Carrie Burke asked the LCC members for a vote of whether the LCC coordinator should provide Vermilion County Commissioners the LCC's recommendation for a Restoration, Revive, Equip, Buckets of Love Ranch Incorporated project, and request the funds from the opioid fund settlement of $120,000 to purchase Hillcrest Community Building. The majority voted yes. I want you to know I'm the one that contacted Pastor Dunning because I was coming up, I sent out to 60 people on our LCC email and asking for requests, proposals about these opioid funds for our county, Vermilion County. And I was coming up with one that dealt with Hillcrest, and then I contacted the Vermilion County Ministerial Association President, Larry Kelsheimer at the Christian Church, and he said, well, there's already someone interested in buying Hillcrest for a ministry. So I stopped my proposal because hers sounded just what we needed here pertaining to drugs and alcohol. So, and then Macy's here, and she's the professional about these opioid funds. Macy, do you want to come up here? Yeah. And Macy Valdez, so she can probably answer questions about the funding. But what I'm saying is, this is in our county, and we've been waiting for a long time to get facilities in our county here where our people can get help. And this is Pastor Lynn and Dunning.
Thanks for having me here today.
Hi.
Hello. Very excited. I have been drug and alcohol free for almost 35 years. And I'm born and raised in this county, in Vermilion County. Been in the ministry for almost 35 years, working with drugs and alcohol. I've done, retired as a nurse. 90% of my nursing was in psych wards and rehab, dealing with people who have addictions. So the program that God gave me is different than most of the programs that have been out there, and I've worked in several of those different Christian type programs, is the fact that most of them just deal with the surface things, and the things that we're going to do is individually deal with the root. what's causing them to do the addiction, what's causing them, what trauma, what things have happened. And so the way the program is developed, it's an individual program, and in first 12 weeks, we will deal strictly on deliverance, on getting things out of them, getting the hurts. And then we have a very structured 12-month program that will go through teaching them discipleship, dealing with every aspect of addiction. And so I have 20 people already as volunteers ready to come on staff, we have everything for the building, we just needed the building. And when this was, because I got out of the way, and I told God I'm gonna quit licking. And so I had Linda Snyder approach me, said I have this building. We've met twice, and it's just been beautiful, the ministry that we have together, kind of passing the mantle to me from her to continue the work that she and Jim started in that building. And so we're just requesting the money to purchase that building. We have 10 churches already on board to sponsor the girls. So one of the biggest things I have found in working with these people for 35 years is when most of the jobs they get are in the kitchen where the drugs are, where you can get drugs, where you can do that little exchange of things. This takes that off their plate, where somebody lovingly pours into them and says, hey, we want to give you a hand up, not a handout. We want to change the way you think. We want to change the way you got to retrain your brain. We've got to change some of the things and make you a citizen who's going to be productive in the community and not one who's going to continue in drugs and alcohol. And we also have, we're going to do meetings twice a week for the public, for women, and then we're going to do a family meeting once a week. So family members, moms, dads, brothers, sisters who have someone who's an alcoholic, doesn't have to be in our facility. We just want to offer it to the county that it's very well needed. There's a lot of people who, if they haven't done drugs, they don't understand the addictive mind. And so when you're able to bring it to a simpler form and be able to teach them on these are the steps how you have to deal with them. My biggest thing is it took the Holy Ghost to change me, plain and simple. Because I tried programs and they didn't work. But when you get on the inside, you get the Lord on the inside, He begins to work. I'm so passionate. He begins to work on the outside, and I have seen, I've only had one person in the 34 years die of an overdose that I have directly dealt with and poured into and mentored, because that is the key. We have mentorship in place for these girls. When they come in, they're assigned a mentor for the whole 12 months. And that person meets with them at least 2 times a week, and they can talk, they can share their experiences. And then we have group activities, we have, they have to attend church. And there's just so many it's a very structured program, because I found out people who are in addiction need that structure. Because if not, they're going to get too busy thinking about, I got to do this, I got to do that. But we have 2 house moms in place to go in there and be with them 24/7. They'll take different weekends off, they'll take different shifts, they'll split their time as they're in the program. And one of the young women that is going to be doing that, I have been mentoring her since 2016. And I have seen a huge change, especially in the last month with her and her development of saying, hey, I got to get it right. I didn't get it right. To the point that her own mom called and told her that she forgave her and that she loved her. That's huge. That's huge, because when you have that disconnect with your family because you've been a druggie, all 3 of your kids are adopted out because you want to do the drugs and alcohol. But for her to have that moment this last week was just beautiful, because that shows that what God's given me works. And that's that person I can say, this works. Look what, Chaz has done and the hard work she's done the last, few years, and to see, God do that. So, you got any questions? I mean, the preacher and me, I could talk for a long time. Tim knows that. Yes, sir.
One of the questions I have on the structure of the entity that this, say if this would happen, the funding would go to X company, or where you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the money will come to Restoration, Restore, Recovery, Buckets of Love, and then that will be written in a check to Linda to purchase the building. Okay? And so we have other fundings in place through churches and stuff to help fund the girls as they come in. We have availability for 16 beds. So we have 16 women at a time. And then and they're $250 a week for them. That's what, that'll be that'll take care of their food, their clothing, their bedding, all those things.
You have church sponsors for that.
And I have church sponsors. I actually have 10 right now, but once we get the building, I've had 15 others go, hey, we're in. As soon as you have a building, we're in. So, yeah.
Have you applied for any other grants?
Not yet. I do have a grant writer. Actually, she did apply for a $25,000 one, she said, last Friday. But she had surgery Friday afternoon, so I haven't talked to her since then.
Have you talked to a council yet? County council, that is?
Yes.
No, she's not
Oh, you
at
mean-
the LCC, but as far as I know, the government works to go to the commissioners and you go to the council.
Could be. Ownership, who owns it now?
Linda
The
Snyder.
building?
Linda Snyder.
Linda Schneider.
Her husband passed away.
Yeah, her husband passed away.
She owns it personally? Or is it corporate?
I believe it's through her ministry. It's through her 501c3. I'm pretty sure.
But you don't know the name of it? Or the nonprofit, I assume it's
Yeah, it's a
nonprofit.
nonprofit. Hang on. There you go. Normandy. I was like, I had to.
But who would actually own the building if this happens?
Who owns that building?
Who would own the building if this happens?
Buckets of Love. Restoration
Okay, now, are
Revival
they
with the
registered?
ministry.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's a 501c.
corporation or
Mhm.
an
Yeah.
LLC corporation?
Yeah, it's an LLC. It is not an LLC. It's a 501c3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you had an appraisal done on the building?
No, but I did have one of my people that's a volunteer is a realtor, and she walked through the building with me, and she said the 120,000 is a decent price because it could probably be more than that. Just with everything, it's 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths.
I don't know.
It's on North
I guess if the county owns it, that we have to have appraisals. I don't know if we can loan money to buy buildings or give grant money, I guess. I would have to look into it. I don't know. Do you know, John?
I think it's how we're administering the opioid funding.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
it's separate from like the county general fund.
You should have a document.
Can you come up and speak?
I can. You should have a document, I think it's like 12 pages
Tell us
long.
who you are
Macy Valdez.
and you're with.
I'm with DMHA. You
And
should
who's
have
that?
Division of Mental Health and Addictions.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So that's
You're
a
welcome.
state?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You should have had a 12-page document that has basically everything you can use the funds for. So anything not on that document, you cannot use opioid funds for. I would suggest looking through that if you're wondering what you can use it for or not. It's a very specific, so everything has to be opioid use, substance use, but it has everything listed on there. If you need that, I can send it to you. You do?
But
Okay.
That's
Does this
based on.
qualify?
You would have to read through it. There's certain sections. So basically the sections are like justice, treatment, and prevention, kind of like LCC funding. So you would have to look at treatment side and see exactly what qualifies under that.
So you don't know?
I thought you said too that unrestricted and abatement.
So it's 2 different.
There is 2 different, yes. It's encouraged to use the unrestricted for the opioid abatement share as well. And obviously the state hasn't came out yet with their their accountability piece yet. That's coming. So what you choose to do, just make sure there's documentation.
One of the questions I have, we talked about when you see these amounts on here, these are the totals over a 20-year time, isn't it? So you're not going to get, if our total is, I thought it was about $18,000 or $20,000 a year or something like that.
It's roughly correct, yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out, you guys are asking for an X amount and we don't have that X amount.
Let me ask, because I don't know either. Lisa, did they get a pot of money yet? The money that that total?
Did they get a pot of money?
400,000.
400,000?
In two
that what you're
categories.
asking?
Two categories.
I'm sorry?
One was 100 and some thousand, and one was 300 and some thousand.
We
So I'm
haven't got
saying
all that at once.
No, it's per year. So you're gonna get, you probably already have your big chunk from 2022.
Which
And then
is-
every year you're gonna keep getting more
I think it's like $18,000 a
That
year,
wasn't
wasn't
that
it?
much. Wasn't huge.
for this year.
But what was the first year?
We just got it. We haven't got this year's yet.
Oh, you haven't? For 2023, you mean? You got 2022's probably around Christmas time.
What was the amount, was that amount around 18,000 or something?
Yeah, I thought it was around 40, but don't quote me.
I thought it was 18 also.
I don't remember either.
Maybe
Well,
the
I
first
thought it
one was
was.
bigger and the rest of them were, I know it was an $18,000 figure there somewhere.
I have
For
it on
20
my phone
years.
too. I can
Yeah.
pull it up if you need.
Do you think the one
Do
first
you have
one
a
was bigger?
recommendation
Huh?
from
You think the
Dr.
first one was
Market
bigger?
I think it was
or
18
Board of
too.
Health? Have you talked with her?
No, I've not talked with her yet, no.
That was my question, in asking for funds. I don't think, the funds will be there over the amount of time, but the funds are not there. It's not lump sum we're getting.
Well, that was my misunderstanding, because I thought the first year you got that amount, and the next, then it went down year 2 and down in year 3. Because that was one of my emails.
So there's a total that you get, but it's for 18 years. So
Yep.
that one's obviously a large number.
It looks like a larger number, but you divide it and it's not as large as it looks every year anyway. It accumulates, but.
Your 2022 is a lot larger than the rest of the years, but I don't remember off the top of my head what your 2022 was. I have 10 counties, so I've got lots of numbers in my head.
So would this be something that, if the majority of the commissioners would support this program, which I think it's fantastic for the community, I think these letters of recommendation speak for themselves and your testimony, but would the county be able to, say, fund the $120,000 and then the county themselves be paid back from the opioid funding that comes in every year if we would pay this out of, whether it be the general fund or whatever?
Like a reimbursement
Like
type
a
of thing?
where the county be reimbursed, because I'm sure the owner of this church doesn't want to wait 18 years on their
Accumulating all
$120,000.
of
Yeah, I
that.
don't think they want to wait 18 years, but if the commissioners and the council agree to pay for that now, can we just be reimbursed from the opioid settlement?
I think ultimately that would be your decision.
Okay.
Obviously those funds are going to keep coming. So it's not like they're not going to
Yeah.
give it to you. So I think that would be totally up to like you guys on what you want to do with that.
How do you pay for your operational costs?
Through donations and funding of the churches.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been doing,
Not you, but the program.
my program, personally, what I've been doing, I've been doing it for almost 34 years. And so and it's been on, not in a building, but I've been ministering to people, whether it's individually, and I go to their house or my house, or I go to rehab places and go and minister, go to the jails and minister. I've been doing this for quite some time, besides being a nurse, and I just retired from nursing a few years ago.
I think the request for the money, I think the question is, we don't have the money, right?
We received 55 in the restricted and 23 in the unrestricted, so we have right around 78. That was for 2022. We haven't received anything from 2023 yet.
That was way off.
But yet it goes down to 18 or something like that, right?
It goes down every year.
But the county as a whole has the money if we would like to.
Do you interface with the Hamilton Center at all?
Have I left?
Do you interface with the Hamilton Center?
I have not yet, no, not until, yeah, I did talk to her at the LLC.
I mean, even like.
Do you
And
cross
general
over
fund, if you wanna take
services
out of
or?
that, we could pay
I
for it.
would, once we opened,
If
you
the
know, but I
council.
needed the building to open to do that, but I have referred people there, you know, in the past that would need help like that. It's certain Christian counselors, you know, if they wanted to go to a particular Christian counselor, and we've used them too.
So, in this situation of ownership, is kind of my question.
So Larry Kilsheimer of the Ministerial Association there in Vermilion County. If per se in 5 years this did not pan out, then they would take over the building. And I've already discussed that with him. As a matter of fact, we had a meeting last night. He and I talked about it. So if it would, you know, they're in support of it. He's one of my reference letters that I sent in, and he's on board 100%. And his church is one of the churches.
I just have some of the questions there. As again, we asked one of the questions, but clarity of ownership and what would happen if X happened, and
yeah,
we don't want, anytime that I would see a funding or any funding going to a private entity, I would like it, or a not-for-profit, it have to stay somewhere, because, you know, say it, you guys walked away for someone else got it and they sold it for $150,000, they put in their money after, you know.
Yeah, no, what would happen is if it didn't pan out, then it would be handed over to them.
Yeah, but where is that documentation at?
I can get that for you.
I think
Yeah.
ultimately this was just a proposal,
Yeah.
right? Just an idea that came about. So I think obviously there's going to be stuff put in place that she can give you on details, but I think it was more of, do we think this is okay to pursue, and then kind of gather all the details.
I'd just like to talk more about it, I mean, discuss it.
Are you a proponent of this?
I am just support. So whatever they feel like Vermilion County needs, I'm just here as a support for everyone. So.
And there were several members on the at the LCC meeting, like at least 18 members, half of them on Zoom, half of them in person.
And this was a recommendation from the council.
And there's a lot of community members on the LCC. So you have a wide range of people on there as well.
Is there any other proposals on the opioid funding?
Yes.
There is.
A couple of them have come to the council.
So they went to the council.
When you're saying the council, you're saying the county council, or you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
And the way I read it, it was like that you two both had to approve, you and the council, on these funds.
Sure.
Okay. Well, it sounds like that it's open for funding, but it's also open for others, and we don't know what's going on with that. So, and I don't know, is there a deadline that this has to be? If you want to address, come up to the podium, please.
May I?
Yes.
I'm interrupting, I understand, but may I?
Yes, please come address it. Tell us who you are.
I'm Nina Alexander. I'm a deputy prosecutor, and I wanted to respond to what you just said, if I may.
Okay.
And I'm not here to advocate for or against. You know, everybody has different proposals. But it's my understanding that the commissioners will make a recommendation as to how to spend these opioid funds.
Okay.
And then it would be up to the county council to approve that. And you just asked him if there were other proposals. I was wondering if the commissioners might set some parameters as to when those proposals might be submitted, like you might say 60 days or 90 days, because I know from the work that I do, I think that the probation department here might have a proposal they might wish to make. I just think there are other groups who also would like to have some input as to how these are spent, how these monies are spent, since it's a one-time thing from the state. So I thought it might be helpful if you could give us those parameters.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, we haven't even worked that out. I mean.
Yeah, I know, and I think you are in a position to bring structure to the application process. Because I worked with LCC for years, but there are other entities that deal with this issue that I think might want to make proposals as well. Okay. But everybody needs some direction from you.
Okay.
I will tell you also, another county has kind of created like a group So it's the 3 commissioners, and then it's like 4 to 5 different entities. So like LCC, probation, sheriff's department, things like that. That way, you're all there and can kind of talk about.
That's an excellent idea. Maybe an interim group to make recommendations so that people know.
Main thing, I guess the point is to make a deadline to submit.
Yes.
And once it's submitted, then maybe form a committee after that too.
And you know, this thing is so loose. I mean, you might decide that you're going to hold these funds for a year until you get the second disbursement, because you want to do something bigger with it. But I think we need some directions from you. So, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to put it.
Good input.
And I may not get back here again, so I want to thank you for your meeting next Tuesday. I think that's a great idea. It may just be you and I, but I'll be there. Thank you.
So what would be my next step?
Well, we as a group, we need to, the commissioner said there's been no communication publicly this, and I appreciate you guys coming because it's forcing us, I hate to say that, but it's making us that we need to deal with this instead of a deadline to, and it would be wrong for us to say, we're just saying one and that's it. We have to open it up. Only way we can be fair is put it out and look at those applications, and then I think, as the comment was made, after the applications come, and then we need to form some groups that can actually have good input on. I can't make that decision, you know, and we commissioners, you know, we can't really make those. We can make decisions, but we can't make we don't have the past experiences in these things to actually know what is really value. And so we're not saying you're wrong. We're not saying no. We're saying that we need to set a procedure here that we can come up with a date of application be submitted, and then they'd be reviewed, and in so many days we'd make a decision. Is that?
Yeah, I'm open to that. I mean, I think the LCC submitted a nice proposal, but hearing from NINA, I think maybe probation, you know, prosecutors, maybe they have some recommendations. I'd like to, I don't know, is 60 days enough time? I mean, I don't know. Do you guys feel that 60 days is enough to submit proposals? I mean, yeah, probation, prosecutors, anybody that's potentially I don't know how long it would take to submit something for this.
I would recommend 90 as opposed to 60, because I think you're going to need maybe 30 days to make sure that the information gets out to those entities that may want to make proposals.
Okay.
Yeah,
So.
Yeah, I don't care how we, I mean, I think even just, I mean, however we want to do it, but I think just the, you know, letters and the emails I got from the LCC was enough for me to really dig into that. But yeah, I'm open, but I think 90 days would be prudent if we want to.
And 90 days would be kind of quite a ways out there in a way, but. Do what?
I don't have any problem with that, but we need the feedback. You know, we need to know what's going on too with these other people applying. We didn't know about it, but what I'm saying is probation was on the Zoom meeting with this vote. Probation was there, and you know, later I contacted, when I sent your email, I contacted the prosecutor for JRAC because there's another government committee there. So trying to be out in the open, you know, making sure everybody knows.
So number 2 is we need to set a date. Number 2 is we need to have some type of application. Because I think if you're applying for it, could we get that information from you that we could, the requirements to pursue? You already got that? Okay.
Yes, that might be something that you would put on the website or something. It's so hard to know how to communicate with people anymore without a daily newspaper. But on the website, if you would include, because I've been through, that's a long path of materials.
And another county also, I'll just throw this out, another county also, there was a lady who went to the commissioners, and she kind of basically broke it down by what like community members have said that is needed in their county. And so she broke that list down from like 12 pages to 5. So you had a little bit less to work with on, we think this is needed in our county, or we're kind of working on this and we maybe want to follow through with that. I don't know if that would be easier, to kind of gauge what you need and not have a 12-page document of all of these things you could do.
Well, could
Because
that
some
be,
of them doesn't pertain to Vermilion County on what you could do, so.
could they, if we have all the information on the website and have it linked to that, where they could go look it up to see all the detailed information, I think would be, so we need to set a,
Application online if you want, they can just do it like they did the.
we need to set a date. You want it 60 or 90 days? I guess, a minimum of 60 sounds at least.
I think 90 would be good. Can we do 90 from today?
I have no opinion.
I mean, so you don't care? I don't care either. I'm just trying to say is I think the minimum of 60 days probably to someone to come up with something, but I know it's probably not what some people want to hear, but.
90's quicker than you think, Tim. We've got a lot to.
Do what?
Gives us time to get it out.
Out to them.
To them and them to get it back to
Yeah.
us.
Okay, so for us to advertise this, how would be the best way to do it? John?
What's
To
that?
the local paper and what?
Yeah, probably just put it in the local paper.
Okay.
Send
The
that.
minutes and meeting will likely, Eric's story will likely put the information out there.
We're sending out an all-county email as well, saying the commissioners are requesting.
Okay.
You give it a 3x5 slot, right?
You guys get something, we can get it on the sheriff's department webpage too.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Yep.
I'd like to say 60 days instead of a 90, so he says 60, he says 90, I say 60, so that, Britt, I really don't care, let's just move on. What is it?
The auditors suggest 90.
I
Well-
believe the 90 is a better number.
Okay.
I know people have immediate uses, but the thing is these payments are still gonna go on for a number of years.
Okay, so we're having a 90-day, after publication, it's gonna be 90 days after that would be the deadline.
You might ask that in their proposal that they cite the exact part of the document that
Yeah, that's what we're
authorizes
gonna
them to do that, instead of us having to look through and try to determine if one it fits under something or not.
I think one of us needs to take point on this so that it gets structured appropriately so that we don't come back and say, well, we wish we had done this. So I think RJ would be great at this.
No problem at all. If you guys want to, that's
Thank
fine.
you. Sure.
No problem.
Sure. So you're gonna get with,
Coordinate with Brenda, is that all right? Okay.
so when.
You wanted 90 days anyway, right?
Works for me. Gives me an extra 30 days to do it.
So I appreciate y'all bringing this up because we was, to be truthful, we're a little bit behind on this, and so at least he brought it to our attention to deal with it. Do what?
I said you're not the only one, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
So we appreciate you coming and also appreciate your testimony and your commitment. We need more people like you all in the community to, willing to take their time to make a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Now can I go to zoning appointments,
Yes.
right? We're getting there.
Yep.
Got that order lunch. County Commissioner appointments, we got a couple appointments. The Board of Zoning Appeal, John Graves.
I believe he's the only one for the BZA. I'll make a motion to appoint John Graves to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll second the motion.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Brett?
Aye.
Vermillion County Board of Health, we got 3, Joyce Clark, Lavonna Wallace, and Roger Jones.
Is that one we're bound by? They can't be so many political parties?
You got two statutes. You've got 1622-4, which says no more than 4 members can be of the same political party. Then you've got 1622-5, which says you got to have so many people knowledgeable in public health and so many physicians, and there's different occupations.
So are we bound by one of these right now with the board, how they're sitting, or are we open to go with any of the
I
three?
think we're open on the balance of it.
Okay.
The Dr. Roger Jones, that is a totally decision of the county
Make a
chairman.
motion for, you say you made a motion?
No, go ahead.
I make a motion for Roger Jones, Dr. Jones.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Think he'd be a good addition to the board.
I think it'd be an excellent addition.
Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Property Tax Adjustment Board, we have two, Patricia Ritchie and Joey Bell.
I'll make a motion to appoint Patricia Ritchie to the Property Tax Adjustment Board.
Okay.
I'll second your motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Redevelopment Commission, I think we got a lot of decision making there to do. Brandon Ruth, he's the only applicant.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Brandon Ruth for the Redevelopment Commission.
Second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Courthouse occupancy and space use status. Mainly what we're dealing with right now is having design work done next door. And he's going to be bringing forth a design for us to look at. And I talked to him last night, and he's got a design that we all need to look at and see if it's what we want.
Okay.
That's mainly where we're at right now with that. So the next step is meeting with him and making sure that the rooms are what you guys want, and you guys approve that design. That's the first thing that we need to get done.
Sounds good.
And then the courthouse other stuff we would be addressing at a later date. The first thing is to get that design work done over there.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
Sounds good.
Okay, IT Standing Committee. We've been, one of the things that we do not have in this county is an IT department, not an IT department, but an IT committee. And we're going to open that up, and I want to get approval of those two commissioners to move forward with getting a IT committee.
That's fine. It's going to be a 5-member, 3-member?
I think at least a 5-member. I've had 4 people already
Okay.
that's wanting to be on that board, and I think that it brings a whole different perspective to these things. I know none of us are IT people, and with having an IT board that's not paid, it's just a volunteer board that can actually give us good input in decision making is very, very important. And years ago, we spent $450,000 of money on computers, and there was really no oversight over it. And I think you agreed with that we have to get some way where we have good input about making decisions about IT. It's a critical thing. I think it's about $170,000 of our budget, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
And none of us here can make that decision or no. So I'm making a recommendation. We establish a 5-member IT board, and they'll be appointed by the commissioners. There'll be a board that they will set their own meetings, and they will be mainly there for reference in case we need something. And I think it will be an asset to our county government.
You wanted to bring recommendations by next commissioners meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
I'm in agreement with the IT committee, yes.
Okay. You all in agreement with a 5-member board?
A standing committee, not an ad hoc meeting, but a standing committee.
Okay.
Sure.
Do we need to do anything, John, as far as forming that committee, as far as anything need to be write out specifically about them? Or?
If they're just advisory, they're going to come to you and give you suggestions.
Yeah.
Like the other committees standing committees, I think it needs to be written down as to what their parameters are and what they're expected to do.
Okay.
So you could probably piggyback off the ambulance committee almost. You could probably just change some wording on it.
Okay.
But we do need to give them structure, and just not to, you're one, go do it.
Well, let's try to have recommendations by the next meeting. We can put it on the agenda next meeting, Brenda. Can we appoint them at the next meeting? Would it be okay to make the appointments at the next meeting? You in agreement?
Depending on all your if you have like 10 or 12 applicants,
Yeah.
but if you only got 4 or 5, then I probably wouldn't have any issues with it.
Okay.
And depending how
Probably
quick you can get
not.
them in.
The description of what the committee does is not, that's fluid anyway, or it can be organic. So
Okay.
we can add to or take away from it.
Yeah.
I don't see that should be a problem.
No.
Okay.
Who's going to write that? Are you going to write that?
I can't really write it. I think it would just be a standard form, wouldn't it, for a committee or something, or how?
Well, their duties, their parameters of what you're looking Kind of like what we did for the ambulance committee, something to that same effect.
Did
or
we ever
some
write
structure.
exactly some type of description on that committee or not? We didn't, did we?
When that committee was developed, Burton sent an email out and said, this is what we'd like you to look
Okay,
at and give your
well,
opinion on.
if it's the same type of committee, why don't we just use what you used before?
Well,
Well,
and
that
tweak
was
it.
specific to the ambulance.
Yeah, just tweak
You
it
need
too.
someone with an IT background probably to give input on what these people would be.
Yeah.
Maybe you can call Mike Phillips in retirement and see if he'd help.
He'd be the perfect guy to do it.
I mean, he really would. He really would if he'd.
Solicit Mike, he'll probably do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we could delegate him to do something.
And like doing some volunteer stuff at the jail, trying to fix things, right, Mike?
Yeah.
I think he'd.
Yeah, I think he'd
be
probably.
Okay. We need to appoint a representative of the commissioners for the Orion project.
What is it?
Huh?
We need to, there
We
was
had
a
a meeting
meeting
last
last night, executive meeting, to discuss the,
Tax abatement.
yeah, I don't know how far we can say things, but anyway, we had a meeting last night. And as such, each, the council and the commissioners need to appoint a representative so that we don't have 17 people trying to come together each time and report back and work within the commissioners, and the council will be doing the same thing.
They appointed 2 last night.
I guess, well, we can appoint 3, I guess, but it's kind of defeats the purpose. But we should appoint, we need a lead on that, relay the commissioners' thoughts, wishes, and then to listen to what is going on there and interface with them, and so that we can come to some agreement at some point in time.
Just a point, you guys' problem with appointing more than one, is 2 commissioners is in a quorum.
It's a joke, I
So,
think.
I'm kidding.
I'm just making sure.
I would like
Never
to.
know I'm kidding, do you?
I personally would like to take that lead on that project.
Okay.
I mean, I've
I
been
don't have
involved
a
with it.
problem.
But of course, all information, decision-making, I think that when someone's appointed, that it's best that that person has a responsibility to give all the information back to the 2 others.
We're not asking you to make decisions for us.
No, I'm saying that decision-making, it needs to come back and people need to be versed about it and take their decision. They're part of that decision-making, is what I'm
Your
saying.
point of contact, that's fine.
I have no issues with it.
Okay. That's done. Give an update on 163 Bridge. The Orange Bridge that was on, it is on 163. The state made a recommendation to the Indiana Historical Division to close the bridge to 1 lane with traffic lights and restrict it. We do have an update that has been changed, and the minimum what they was requiring was go ahead and make it 2 lane and redo the bridge. I've been in conversation with NDOT about a different alternative. They're open to suggestions, and I think that this might turn out to be a positive thing instead of a negative thing. But I'm just letting you know it's ongoing, and we'll have another public meeting here for long. But I think that the public input, the meetings we had, and the people we took over, I think we had over 400 or 500 signatures signed, and we had multiple letters. We had letter of support of Larry Bashan, Congressman Braun, our Senate, different people in government sent letters to the federal government in response to that this is not good. And so we are going, I think, in the right direction, and NDOT is open to some communication on some positive change, so we have made a difference.
I've asked District 1 Commissioner, or Foreman, to look at our county bridge situation as to the possibility of that bridge being moved to a county location and to replace. And I'd like for 2 and 3 to do the same thing, look at what you've got that might fit these parameters, whether it will or not, what might be able to fit.
That's
and
right.
so that would fit our needs in maybe a lot of different ways.
In my letter to the officials on this, they looked at it as a historical structure, and there's probably not very many people in the county is more historical encouraged and involved than me. I mean, I'm all about preserving and promoting Vermilion County. And I asked them a question. I said, if you're really interested in preserving this thing, why don't you really preserve it? Why don't we move it to some place where it can be used and utilize some of the place, and then let's get a new modern bridge to go in there that actually does the thing, because if you leave it there in 25, 30 years, you're going to take a cutting torch to it and you want to tear it down. You know, and if you're really serious about preserving it, let's move it someplace other than the county where it's still accessible and used, and let's get a modern bridge there that's unrestricted with height and the weight, and actually provides what it should do instead of restricted. So it's ongoing. If you want to say something, come on up. I hate to say that, but you need to come up here.
We have.
I thought you were going to say something. You're like, yeah, you going to say something?
Oh, I am.
Okay, come on up.
But you want it up there?
Yeah.
It's just about the.
It says right here, anyone speaking must come up to the podium. It's
I'll be
just,
glad
I'm
to.
just reading what it says.
I'll be glad to. Thank you. I don't hear as well as I used to, and Tim, you still mumble.
She used to be my teacher.
You passed over the use and space in the courthouse so quickly, I didn't hear what was said. So I was just asking what was said. That's what I wanted to know.
Right now, we are still working on the annex.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we have got a rough plan that we're going to get together and approve that plan. We have not allocated any spaces or made any decisions about who's going where or anything like that.
And that might be affected by the decisions you make regarding the
theater,
the auditorium. Okay,
So-
that's all. I just wondered. I couldn't hear.
But I'm all in favor, and this is my saying, is when we get to that place where we're getting inside the courthouse, we need to have a discussion with the people in the courthouse. But ultimately, that decision does come back to us.
Of
what
course it
happens.
does.
But still, I think that everyone has a right to voice their concern.
Sure.
And we're mainly, this over here is going to be a big asset to us, and we're just trying to figure out
Huge.
And some people complain, act like it was a bad investment. It's a great investment.
No.
So, but we got an engineer that I talked with him last night, and he showed me a rough print, and I said, well, you need to bring this back to the other two commissioners, and let's move it. Let's get that resolved with the office space first, and then we can start addressing the next step.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Well, you know,
Sorry if I mumbled.
That's all right. You can work on it. I've been in so many courthouses over the last 35 years, and I've always been impressed with the fact that we have more space because of that auditorium than anybody else does. I mean, it's a huge opportunity to use space well. So I'm just...
So what? So you're talking about this, so you want to share what your...
Well, the courthouse is a hotbed. Pardon?
You're a big supporter of the arts, I know.
I am.
So, theaters.
I am.
You go do the first performance.
No, I'm going to wear costumes every day. In the courthouse, it's just a hotbed of scuttlebutt. So I want to keep real knowledgeable about space, because I fully expect to come here someday and have my locks changed. So I just wanted to know.
Don't want to say no more about that then.
Yeah, I know that.
No, but this is just an open conversation.
Sure.
I was trying to see where can we find pictures of the way that was when it was originally built. I bet at one time that was a beautiful building, beautiful place.
Downstairs?
The auditorium was. At one time it was.
Well, it had to have been.
Huh?
It had to have been a nice thing. I mean, look at our courtroom. I mean, those medallions that you see up there had chandeliers that hung from there.
The chandelier is supposed to be over here at the Vermilion County Historical Society. It came out of there.
I wouldn't be surprised. There's one in a local house. And now we're left with, probably more functional lighting.
Yeah.
But boy, it's not what it once was.
No.
Have you ever seen it?
What?
Did you see theater when it was a theater or an auditorium?
No, I think it is. That's a long time ago.
I never saw anything there when it was refurbished in any way, shape, or form. They used to, when we had Christmas parties, they would have Christmas parties down there, and kids would perform on that stage. But I've never seen anything like a theater production down there. It's just been used for large dinner meetings,
that kind of
So it's
thing.
always been a concrete floor and.
Yes, yes, yes. I used to go down and skate on that during my lunch. Don't do that anymore.
Well, that's an alternative skating rink.
It's perfectly, well, you get going a little too fast to make that corner. To me.
We can bank the curves.
Yeah, okay. That'd work, that'd work. But it's a lot of space. And it's so tall.
That ceiling needs to come out, it needs to go the rest of the way up, with the grandeur of it. I mean,
Well, the truth of the matter is
Yeah.
structurally, you could have 2 levels down there.
Do what?
You could have 2 levels down
Mezzanine
there.
level.
It's, so, anyway.
You got one person involved.
Well, yeah.
I am too.
Shall I bring lunch? I mean, is it just?
Sure. It's 1:00, so. Bring supper too.
No,
It's
I'm
6 o'clock.
not. One meeting for us, one meeting. Thank you kindly for your time today. Appreciate it. See you later.
We have bids that we
Yeah,
need to
we got,
open here.
go ahead and make that announcement.
When we went out for annual bids, I didn't include asphalt in the bid documents, and it wasn't intended to go out because District 1 doesn't really, we mix our own. District 2 and 3 has quantities, but I don't know to what quantity, so we didn't go out. I wasn't intending to go out, but that section was left in the annual bids, and because of that, or not because of, we did receive 2 bids on that. Both of them are from Milestone. One is from Terre Haute, one's from Lafayette. We'll open those bids, and then I would suggest most likely that we take it under advisement until next meeting, but we'll open those bids now. This is from Milestone Contractors LP, Lafayette. It appears that they have signed the appropriate documents as far as the requirements of the bid and this bond. No, they didn't need a bond, but they did. It has unit prices here that we'll take under for HMA, and we'll take those under advisement for the next meeting. Or I suggest now, open the second one. Like I said, I can't do that. This one's from Milestone Contractors, Terre Haute. Again, it's unit prices for HAC. This is HAC, it says HMA. It appears that we have the appropriate documents and sureties from them for the obligations, or for the bid. I suggest that we take these under advisement for the next meeting. We're beyond the time period for the bids, but it'll be up to, we can accept them still, and it'll be up to them whether they want to still honor them at this point in time, though.
Okay.
Do you guys agree that we take their?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and do this since it was approved last night? I don't think that has to be done at the meeting, that's the $20,000 ambulance.
Last night at the council meeting, we did get approval for the $20,000, and that's to do the design work on the new ambulance facility. The rest of the quote is based on if we do the rest of the project. So they're going to start to do the design work. Our plan is to have the design work done for an ambulance facility and have it available for grant funding. I have talked to people in that involved with Ready grant, and I think we will get some money. So if we can do one of these ambulance facilities, we already got one site approved, not approved, can I say that? Can I say approved by the ambulance committee? One site approved, right?
Yeah, we forwarded it on to you.
Yeah, and they agreed to give us the site for $1 for 100-year, 99 or 100-year lease, and so that's where we're at on that. So I need to come back, and I'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting to have that site approved for a possibility of the ambulance facility. And the design work that's being done, this design work can be used for all 3 locations if we want to do them. So the $20,000 is not just spent one time; it's for multiple locations. So the next meeting, I think we'll approach that and bring it before the commissioners for approval of the site.
Did you want to approve this today?
Yes. Yeah. It's already been budgeted. The council approved it. I just want to make sure you guys
Well,
we
haven't
talked about
approved
it.
it yet.
Okay.
That wasn't, we were going to approve it, but
Okay.
anyway, we never had it. So, need a motion to approve the Arcturus contract. It's underneath our MSA, and it's a task order agreement.
But it's only for the 20,000, it's not for the rest of it. The rest of it would be if the funding comes and the project develops.
No, I'll make a motion for that. It's 20,000?
Yeah.
Right.
I'll make a motion for the 20,000 for, what's the company's name?
Arcturus.
I can't say it.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
I don't know what, yeah, that's hard. Arcturus, yeah.
Yeah, you're the one from down here.
Huh?
You're the one from down here.
Second
Sure.
motion.
Okay. Discussion? I think it's a good thing to do, very
Yep.
positive. We're not proactive, we this way here, we're being proactive, we're getting something ready before it comes. Okay,
Call for the vote.
go for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, anything else, anybody else before I gavel this meeting out?
You can have public comment.
Public comment? You wanna make a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Your mind.
Well, we broke